So this lesson is on Islam in Southeast Asia, and this is part 6 of a 6-part series on the rise and spread of Islam. Now first we should consider this region as a kind of borderland, or maybe border islands. Right, Southeast Asia consists of the Indo-Chinese peninsula, as well as the islands of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and half of the island which belongs to India and Papua New Guinea. And it marks a kind of boundary area between China's sphere of influence and India's sphere of influence. Okay, sphere of influence is just kind of the area around a major civilization where smaller civilizations exist, and they're kind of controlled by that larger civilization. It was an area that was very rich in trade, especially spices and woods, especially hardwoods that are very valuable for fancy furniture and building, as well as shipmaking. And it's a very mixed area in terms of languages and cultures, again, with the Chinese influence and the Indian influence. Language, Buddhism, Confucianism. It's a highly mixed place. And at the time, the Philippines was more kind of an outpost all by itself, or part of China's sphere of influence. And that's going to change with the coming of the Spaniards in period 4 of world history. But so just a very interesting mixed place. And one of the most important places in this area were the Straits of Malacca. And this is a choke point in world geography. And you're going to hear me use this term. I've used it before, but choke point is a place that's very important to trade and military strategy. And if you can control a choke point in the world, you can have a huge influence on economics and military development, right? Because any ships coming from the Arab regions or East Africa or India really had two choices. They could go through the Straits of Malacca, or they could go clear around to the north of Australia and back up. But because of the way the winds blow, it was much more advantageous to go down the Straits of Malacca. So early on, the Shrivijaya, who are a Buddhist civilization and trade empire, controlled this area very strongly. And they, of course, because they're Buddhist, were aligned with India. But after they collapsed, they allowed the Muslims to come in and start setting up trade stations throughout this region and to spread their culture outwards into Southeast Asia more generally. Right, and some of the biggest converters in this area were the Sufis, who, as I've told you before, were out there pushing this very personal, mystical experience of Allah, which kind of made them closer to Buddhism than the Sunni Muslims are. And because of the Sufis' experience with Hinduism and Buddhism in India, they kind of knew the local cultures and were more successful in making converts. But this comes back to trade. So once again, here's this theme of the relationship between trade and religion. And the Sufis ended up spreading Islam as far as the Philippines. Let me go back to this map here. Oops. So even today you have southern regions of the Philippines which are heavily Muslim. Right? And, because the Sufis were less strict than the Sunni or Shia, they were better able to mix with local groups. And so here's that theme of syncretism again, which is just that kind of mixing. Because the Sufis were a little bit looser too, they were able to make allowances for the stronger role of women in these local cultures. In Southeast Asia, women tend to be very, very powerful. I wouldn't go so far as to call them matriarchal societies where the women rule, but compared to most civilizations in the day, and even still to a degree today, Southeast Asian women have a tremendous amount of power in their localities. Right? And so that's it. That's, just a brief overview of the spread of Islam into Southeast Asia. It never really took a firm hold like it did in West Africa and North Africa, which we'll be studying in the next series of lessons. but it does to this day still have a strong presence in that region. And so some final notes here, right? If money is the root of all evil, why does trade help religions and cultural values spread so rapidly? And it kind of relates to the business world of today. How does that spread cultural values? When we think about video games, the internet, TV, movies, and music, that relationship between cultural and religious values and the business world is still alive and well today. So this completes our series of lessons on the rise and spread of Islam. Thanks for watching.